Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Bob Mendelsohn, and this is the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. That's some great Mendelssohn music from the Wedding March. I hope you like it. This is season 7, episode 17 of the Bob's Your Uncle podcast. And today we're interviewing Merryl Eaton, originally from the Bronx, now lives in Connecticut with her husband. She is an activist. She is a grandmother and a great lady who has her fingers in a lot of pies. She's not a meddler. She is a make it happen person. You'll be glad to get to meet her on this episode. Stay tuned. You'll enjoy these 18 minutes.
Don't know much about history. Don't know much biology. Don't know much about a science book. Don't know much about the French I took. But I do know that I love you. And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be.
On this date in history, the 1st of August in 1834, Great Britain's Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 went into effect in most British colonies. That act made Canada a safe haven for fugitive enslaved people from the United States, where slavery still was in effect. In 1936, more than 5,000 athletes from 51 countries marched in alphabetical order into a stadium where Adolf Hitler made his public statement of the welcome to the Berlin Olympics. Some countries, including Austria and France, gave the Nazi salute as they passed by the Fuhrer. In 1943, racial tensions boiled over in New York City in what's now known as the Harlem Riot of 1943, triggered by a white police officer shooting a black soldier. And in 1944, 15-year-old Anne Frank wrote her final entry in her diary 3 days before her family and she were sent to die in Nazi concentration camps. And that's the historical marker of the week.
But I do know that I love you. And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be.
Shalom, Merryl Eaton. You are known to many in the U.S. as a wife and a mother and an activist, and more specifically, a director of this group called Advocacy and Education in the Christian Community Action. Oh, my goodness. And you say of yourself, I provide administrative support for mothers and others for justice. It's a New Haven grassroots advocacy group. What kick-started your interest in advocacy?
I think I was in fourth grade. I think it was just another word for troublemaking. Um, so I've always had a voice. I've always been happy to use it. And I was a stay-at-home mom. I was very, very active in my children's school, and I was looking for a part-time job. And there was an ad that they were looking for somebody who had experience building playgrounds. I had done that in my kids' school, and and organizing cultural arts programs, and I did that. And I forget the third thing, but I went on the interview and I said, you don't need to interview anybody else. This job is mine, because it was so very specific. And so that was in 96. I formally became a community organizer.
And you're still going.
Still going.
When you look back over your life, is there a particular highlight?
There have been so many,
Right.
but because we're talking about community organizing, I was hired in Danbury, Connecticut, parents were not happy with the recreational opportunities available, and particularly around the playgrounds. And I knew the mayor. He was a very, very charismatic, handsome, guy. I mean, I was a big fan. And I went to him with, my group of parents that, I was helping organize. And I said, well, we really would like to see, some new playgrounds being built. And he said, it's not going to happen. And I thought, I don't like when men say no to me. And I did some homework and found out how much the city was spending on insurance claims.
Oh,
And went back to him and said, it would be so amazing if you got these playgrounds built, and it would be such a wonderful thing for the city. And we ended up getting $2 million worth of playgrounds, including at that point, I think we were the second largest handicapped accessible playground in the country. And on two particular weekends, I organized and had 400 volunteers come out to build 4 playgrounds. So that was a highlight.
people hear this on my podcast and they'll say, I want to get this woman to come to my city.
Yeah.
Are you clonable?
I like to travel.
That's it. Merrill, we've run parallel lives in ministry the last 20 years or so, maybe longer. What got you and your husband, Tony, to Connecticut? I mean, you didn't start there, did you?
No, no, it doesn't matter how long I'm out of it. I will always think of myself as being from the Bronx. We lived in New York. We lived in Yonkers, New York. And to be honest, my son was in kindergarten, and the teacher said, "Get him out of the schools." The schools were having some serious problems, and we had friends in Connecticut, and they recruited us to come to Connecticut.
So you did that to help your child.
Right. But when I was 17, my boyfriend bought me this famous poster by Steiner, and it shows 10th Avenue, 11th Avenue, and 12th Avenue in New York, and then the world falls off.
That's it.
I still have the poster. I still have the boyfriend. I haven't changed my mind.
Well, you were raised in New York as an ordinary city Jew, but now you're anything but ordinary. How did that take place? Actually, let me ask some specifics from our friend. We have a mutual friend in Brooklyn, Shoshana, and she remembered when I was talking to her a couple weeks ago, asking you while standing at your kitchen sink, what was keeping you from accepting Yeshua as your Messiah? Apparently, you at that time had an intellectual understanding of the gospel, but you couldn't believe or wouldn't believe. I don't know. There was a baptism at your home in your backyard pool that day. And she remembers this, that she challenged you to ask God to give you what she would call the gift of faith. And at that time, you were even attending a Bible study with a lady in the neighborhood. So let me ask, was there one thing? And if so, what was it that moved you from a place of non-belief to a place of faith?
That, got married under a chuppah. My husband started studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I didn't want to divorce him. I wanted to kill him. We moved to California to for a job and to get away. We came back. He had a on the road experience, and was back talking to me about Jesus. And
Wait,
so
Tony was, you just dropped that in. Wait a minute, you moved to California, he's got a job, he comes back, you're back on the East Coast, and now he's studying or has an encounter with God and Jesus, and he's a Jewish guy. What the heck?
right, right.
And that's what you're thinking. What did I marry?
That's exactly what I was
What did I
thinking.
do?
And it's funny for somebody who grew up in New York and understood the Moonies and the Hare Krishna and I knew nothing about Jesus except that he was back in the picture. I couldn't differentiate, in the beginning between JW's Jesus and this Jesus that he had become so enamored of.
Hmm.
So to answer your question, um, we were having Bible wars. And I made an agreement that I would go to a Bible study, but he had to take dance lessons. And I was such a brat in this Bible study. And I didn't realize it was really designed to try and help me come to faith. And I really struggled. I went from not wanting to believe to wanting to believe and not know how.
Hmm.
And I don't and Sam Nadler was, who I'm sure many of your audience knows, or you can explain, was pivotal in leading my husband to a Messianic Jewish faith. And I went to, we went to a Chosen People Ministries conference where I wouldn't be caught dead in a sermon. But, Sam was my friend. And, I had a very, very miraculous encounter with him. And I explained to him what I was going through. And he said, Merrill, maybe you should maybe you should believe because it's true. And, that it sounds so mundane now, but it really sent me back looking at things like Josephus. But I had all these objections. And it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was downstairs in the basement. And when you do an obstacle course, how sometimes you get to a point where there's like a wall and you have to climb the rope over the wall.
Yeah.
And that's how my faith, how it felt, that I was just never ever going to get there. I just had too many questions, and a light bulb came on, and I thought, why do I have to go over the wall? Can't I just go around it? And I said to the Lord, I said, look, I think you're real. I don't know how to do this. I have all these problems, but here I am. And it was like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. All of a sudden I was on the other side and it was green. And there I was.
It's great. You got a new heart
Yep,
and a
absolutely.
new everything. That's so great. Um, I'm amazed when I think about the amount of stuff you have done and continue to accomplish even this year. How do you keep going? Or let me ask it another way. What gets you up each morning? That is, you've got such a long resume of superb achievements, and many would rest on those laurels, but you keep going. So what gets you up in the morning?
First of all, I think I come from a position of gratitude. I'm so grateful to the Lord for everything He's done. I'm an extrovert. Any 15-minute slot has to be filled with 30 to 40 minutes of activity. And, I love people. I love what I'm doing. And this brings me joy.
The world, the world's a mess. The world is ever changing, and I don't think it's getting better. They say change is the only constant, but what, if anything, worries you about changes you see in the world just now?
Oh, Bob. So for your audience, I work for an agency that works with people, families with children under 18 who are homeless. And right now we're really struggling with housing crisis, with a healthcare system that I believe is going down the drain, with legislation that does not make sense for most people's lives. We have cuts to our SNAP, that's our food program, where I know people, that look like you and me that are hungry. I'm very concerned. And I'm very concerned about the lack of safe gun laws. Every day in today's newspaper, every day in this country, there's a mass shooting described by at least 3 people being killed.
Let me give you a series, a lightning round. Summer or winter?
Winter,
Oranges or pomegranates?
oranges,
Reading a book or watching the movie of that book?
definitely reading a book.
Boston or Philadelphia?
Boston,
Misha Getz or Marty Getz?
Marty, he was ground zero for me in seeing and really believing that a Jew could believe in Messiah.
That chopped liver statue of
That's the one.
Old Testament or New Testament?
Oh, both. One book.
One book. Hosting a podcast or being interviewed on one?
I'd like to host one, but right now it's being interviewed.
There you go. Anything you want to share with the worldwide Bob's Your Uncle podcast audience?
Okay, well, this is not I don't have a favorite scripture, but this is one that I proclaim a lot, and it's from Isaiah 58. Is this not the kind of fasting I choose to loosen the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and to not turn away from your own flesh and blood. I wish
Awesome.
more people would remember this.
Merrill, I am so grateful to have caught up with you this summer and and on now on the podcast. You're a joy and a stirrer to people of all ages to get out there and do the next right thing. Blessings on you and Tony, and thanks for Shoshana and Sam Nadler and all those who had a role in our lives
Yeah.
as we keep following Yeshua. Thanks so much, Merrill.
Okay, I enjoyed our time together at the conference and hope it's the first of many.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, take care.
What do you think about all this? Why don't you write to me, Bob Mendo at AOL.com, or comment right where you're listening to the podcast. And look, usually we read from the scripture every week, but Merrill has done that for us from Isaiah chapter 58. 700 years before Yeshua came, those words were powerful. Is not this the fast that I have chosen? To do all these mitzvot, to these good works. Well, let's live in that today and throughout our days. And wherever you are, whether you're out for your evening constitutional, you're at the gym, you're at home with your headphones, thanks for being with us. And look, when things look bleak or uncertain, look up to God. He's in his heaven, and Bob's your uncle. Shalom from Nashville.